we are asking that he has actually sold out our sovereignty. The other issue that you also raised in our petition, among others, is that he has agreed that the US should create an a military base in Lamu without asking the people of Kenya to participate in making that determination. To us, is that he has completely sold out again our sovereignty, where foreign entities and foreign states will establish their military base here without consulting the Kenyans. So those are some of the issues that we have raised, among other issues of breakdown of governance. And we are hoping that the High Court will be able to agree with us and give us an opportunity to argue our referendum, or to carry out our referendum. We are asking many people to join this petition, whether you belong to your professional groups, whether you want to be individuals. We are asking especially the professional groups or the NGOs and civil societies to join this petition. We have a pool of volunteer lawyers who are willing to take up your matters and urge or argue this case before court. We're asking the Chief Justice to appoint a bench of not less than 5 judges who are going to hear and determine this case. We have very solid facts and grounds that we are relying on in respect to asking the High Court to declare that Kenyans can remove or change a regime through constitutional means of a referendum. Those are some of the issues that we have raised now. I have shared a copy of the same with Eric. Perhaps Eric may be posting it in this forum for people to go through it and read and understand the issues that we are raising before the High Court. I would reiterate once more that people are free to join this petition, because the more, the merrier. If you're able to collect signatures from wherever you are, as long as they are designated signatures in support of the petition for referendum, we'll be able to take those signatures again and collect them in our affidavits and show the court the weight of the case and the desire that people have. Of course, the argument about the loss of legitimacy is premised on the ongoing protest against government and the inability of Mr. William Ruto to protect life, which is so sacred, that he has unleashed his militias to go and kill Kenyans who are exercising their constitutional right. So we are saying that Kenyans have a right to remove him because he has failed to defend the constitution, which he himself swore to defend. So those are some of the issues, Eric, we are raising in our petition. I'll still remain available for further consultation or clarification. Thank you.
Can I go?
Okay, asante sana, advocates. Let me bring on board Abdi. Good evening, sir. What do you have to say?
Thank you. My name is Abdi. I am joining you from Toronto. And here is and I would say thank you to Eric, Nyakundi, Edgar, Ndwega, Advocate Njiru, and Willis, and everyone on the space, and all the speakers joining who spoke. Lately, some friends in the diaspora and around have been thinking that because Raila has joined the government, our movement is over. Let me address this sentiment. Our struggle is not yet about any single individual or political alliance. It's about the collective will of the people of Kenya. Our mission is to create a just, equitable, prosperous nation that prosperous and mission continues regardless of the political shift. Raila's decision does not define our movement nor our resolve. We must stay focused on our goals, mobilize the youth, and work towards change we want to see. Our journey is far from over, and together we'll keep pushing. Having said that, I believe coalition arrangements in Kenya have always been short-lived and formed for special purpose. This time is not different. The political class consistently unite for their selfish agenda, ignoring the root cause of our issues. The Kenya Kwanza coalition has been buying legitimacy across the political divide. President Ruto represents the, the old school of thought of Moi, which is now outdated. We saw recently the touring the country, seeking legitimacy, parading his cabinet appointees, politics of tokenism, Mutieto syndrome. This has been, and now this has been going on like people being cabinet secretary being paraded in Tadimari, now heading to the home turf of Wycliffe Oparanya. This was create an illusion of widespread and legitimacy based on cheers from the local community. I would say the president politics still represents politics of mass manipulation, engaging the populace. Despite this effort, there is glaring political incompetence reflected in the continued failure to deliver on the promise, on the promises and on the process and to govern effectively. The people by negotiation, no. Their demands are well known, accessible. The senator said in earlier, Kenya our software is working, and we having said that, and our politicians also should respect Kenyans who elected them. We are not as foolish as they think or naive. Finally, the KK government is all about political settlement between all right Ruto. There is no economic benefit to the citizens. And we see the KK regime is overwhelmed by responsibility and status of their office. They are yet to settle in reality they are in charge of this country. They divide, as you have seen, legitimacy through tribal cabinet appointments. Kenyans will violently and painfully anything the regime throws at them. We are up. It's not that we are up. We are not up against two people. Change we desire in this country. Youth, the youth see themselves as the key stakeholder. Encourage independent reporting and storytelling that reflect the true aspiration and struggles of the people. The other thing you can also use is to leverage on social media. Social media platform to disseminate messages, mobilize support, maintain pressure on the political class. Social media is a potential tool for grassroots organization advocacy and real-time communication. I will also add this, maybe I don't know what is your school of thought. I will say we should also form alliance with like-minded groups and individuals, including the civil society organization, activists, other movements that share the vision for better Kenya. Unity, strength, and broad base of support. Final take is also civic education. Educate the public about their rights and their responsibilities. Empower citizens to demand better government. Hold their leaders accountable. Civic education is crucial for fostering an informed and active citizen. We must also ensure our young people are registered to vote. This is something that we miss every time to participate in the electoral process, to support and encourage youth candidates committed to the cause in the coming elections. Finally, this is the thing: we must maintain violent resistance, uphold peaceful, non-violent means of protest and resistance. Violence can undermine the movement legitimacy and provide the government with a pretext to crack down. Non-violent resistance ensures a high moral ground and broadens public sympathy. With that, I say thank you for giving me this opportunity, and God bless you
Thank
all.
you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Edgar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, I had asked Njiru a question. I had asked him, there is an election law where vehicles will now be declared as polling stations. So I was wondering, don't you think a member of parliament will designate his car to be a polling station? What are you doing about this? And then I'm also asking you, Wakili Njiru, kwa nini tusitumie tu ID kupiga kura? Kwa sababu mimi nikitaka kufungua bank account leo wataniomba ID. Nikitaka kufanya those very serious transactions, they will not ask for my voters card, they will ask for my ID. So how comes mimi nikienda kupiga kura naulizwa voters card and not ID? And I think ID is more powerful than a voters card. Don't you think we can skip that process of voter registration and save the 9 billion, because every voter registration exercise inachukwanga between 9 billion, between 7 billion and 10 billion in terms of money. Why can't we skip that and then we just decide to tumie ID card? Wakili.
Thank you, Eric. Allow me to begin by perhaps sharing my small knowledge about elections. The reason why we register voters, one, is for ease of electoral management. For example, the procurement of election materials. We need to know the exact number of materials that we are procuring. Number two, if we were to say that every Tom, Dick, and Harry goes, and that an ID would be the ultimate document and that does not require registration, it means that then we are not able to hold, rather to account for how many votes have been cast. For example, we need to know how many registered voters are there in a certain constituency and how many turned up for voting. This, of course, will deal with the issues of electoral malpractice because we are certain as to the number of the registered voters. So for me, the problem is not about registration, because the registration is quite crucial for election management and also for accountability purposes in an election process. Number three is the question of the ID is paramount. And you can see government uses ID as a means of suppressing voters' registration and subsequently suppressing the outcome of an election and the ability of people to express themselves. And while ID is quite crucial because voting must be done by individuals beyond the age of minority, what we should be calling for is acquisition or access of these ID cards. We should be proposing that the process of processing the ID cards ought to be devolved from Nairobi to the counties and make it easy and expedient and efficient for people to be able to acquire them, because IDs and registration of elections are intertwined. Number three, the question of motor vehicles being used as voting areas or voting regions or voting centers is a serious question, because who determines when a motor vehicle should become an instrument where voting should take place, and what is the justification? To me, I think that is bad legislation. That is a bad law in my view. It's a law that is capable of being abused in favor of the persons who have the ability to influence the elections. And as such, that is one of the issues we should be with the IBC Act. that urgent amendment, so that we may seal all possible loopholes where elections can be manipulated. I think that's all, Eric, for my clarification.
All right. Thank you very much. But before you leave, will you be in a position to connect with Rutendo from Zimbabwe and
Yes,
see if you can follow up on this issue of GMOs, especially this livestock bill? Yesterday, we saw women from Samburu
yes,
protesting that their milk is being taken away by the dairy board.
yeah,
And these issues of rural farmers is going to escalate. Very soon,
yes,
you'll see more and more farmers going to the streets complaining that their
yes.
yields and their produce are being suffocated by government policies and boards and authorities. Don't you
Yes,
think you can link up with Rutendo so that
yes.
as a nation we can see what we can do to stop these IMF infiltration of our food systems, health systems, and those kind of things?
I would be glad and more glad than ever to join hands with fellow Pan Africanists, because
Yes,
this is a
Rutendo.
compounded, yeah, Mr. Rutendo. This is a compounded problem that is facing Africa. For example, that livestock bill is a toxic bill that is being proposed by Parliament. And perhaps just to highlight some of those things is that you'll not be able to grow fodder in your farm. You'll not easily be able to feed your cows with the millet or the corns that you're farming in your farm without the accreditation of a body they are calling an authority to regulate that. Even for you to build a small shed for your cows, you require to be regularized. For you to come and serve your cows, you'll also require to be regularized. So some of these things are the ones that global movements are making it difficult for us to perpetuate our African traditions, culture, and to perpetuate ourselves. Why are they restricting that my neighbor cannot come and ask for some assistance from my bull to serve its cow? Simply because they want to control the genetics. They actually, in the livestock bill, establishing a genetic center. The genetic center will be manned by an authority that they have created under that particular act. It means that your cow cannot be served by the genes of by the bull of your, and therefore they are trying to globalize even the manner in which our cows will produce. Not even cows, even your dogs and your pets are also regularized by that particular act. To me, we need a full day to, or a full session to go close by close on that particular act. I've read it, I have gone through it. Is an act that we must call out Parliament to reject the way they rejected the finance bill. But also we also need to look at the question of globalization and how globalization is also influencing the manner in which and how we live. They want us to completely alienate our food sovereignty so that we may become completely dependent on them. So I will be able to join hands with Rutendo. Justice Angote. You realize existence. It is threatening our food security. It is threatening us, and I've had Mr. Rutendo submitting very ably how cancer prevalence and
ikuwe serviced, yani ipandwe na bull, hauwezi fanya vile tumezoea kufanya. You see, ukikuwa na ng'ombe huko village, unaongea na jirani, anakuletea bull, ina service ng'ombe. Lakini this time huwezi, lazima upate license, na hiyo bull lazima ikuwe na license kwamba iko na the correct gene yenye wame declare hiyo ndio gene tunataka. Kitu ingine, you cannot feed your cow. Mimi huko kwangu nimezoea nikivuna mahindi ama nikivuna beans, or when I cut my bananas, I cut that banana stem na katakata into small pieces, naeka chumvi kidogo, napatia ng'ombe wanakula. This time when this bill goes through, that one is not possible. It will not be allowed. You cannot give your cow feeds that have not been regularized by that authority. So hii ni issue yenye ni serious, because someone wants to control what you eat, how you eat. Hata ukikamua maziwa, uko na ng'ombe yako hapo inakupatia 3 liters. You cannot give this maziwa to a neighbor. Labda neighbor anataka kununua. Saizi watoto wamefunga shule, they are at home, they are taking a lot of tea. Na labda uko na ng'ombe inakupatia 3 liters, 5 liters, and a neighbor comes to buy. You are not supposed to sell without the authority of these boards and those authorities. So hii ni kitu serious. And this kind of globalization yenye Ndegwa anaongelea hapa ndio lead to the rise of chronic diseases zenye tuko nazo in the country today. Saizi kanza ziko juu. I'm sure those who are listening now, kwa familia yenyu ama haujaisikia familia yenye haina mtu ako na diabetes, hypertension. Yet mnakumbuka when we were growing up, it was very difficult kusikia mtu ako na diabetes. Very difficult. It was very hard kusikia mtu ako na hypertension. Haikuwa rahisi. But right now kila family huwezi kosa diabetes, hypertension ama cancer, arthritis, kidney diseases. Jana kwa kliniki yangu I was attending to a young man, 21 years old. Ako na kidney disease. Mtoto mdogo sana. Inafaa aende KMTC I think in September. A very young. We must prosecute and resist. Rutendo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You've said it. You've said it so well, and you've summed it up in a very amazing manner. But there's another concern that is happening. There is academic imperialism that is currently taking place, or intellectual imperialism, where any thought that is African-centered is looked down upon and legislated upon by African leaders acquiescing to international conventions that they sign without interrogation of anything that is happening on the African continent. So you need to understand that the country with the most cattle in the world per capita is actually Chad. And with Chad, they actually have more cattle per capita than any other country in the world. And they have done that by preserving their cattle as the indigenous species, raised according to the indigenous tendencies or the indigenous practices. I'll give you a perfect example of how it is that we see the success of Chad. When Chad got independence in 1960 or 1961, they had the same amount of people and cattle as Zimbabwe then, 1961. 2 million cattle and about a population of about 5 million people. Today, Chad has got 32 million cattle, and Zimbabwe has got 5.6 million cattle. That means that Chad has been able to increase its herd by 6 times the amount that Zimbabwe has. Why? Because Chad, the moment that France stopped colonizing Chad, it had not totally changed the traditional practices. France had not changed the traditional practices of the Chadians. They continued their traditional methods, while Zimbabwe was exposed to hybridizing the cattle of Zimbabwe, turning them into a mix of European breeds, Indian breeds, and other breeds that were not indigenous to Zimbabwe that were susceptible to the cattle. Point number one. Point number two, there was also the proliferation of diseases like foot and mouth and other diseases, anthrax, by the white colonizer in order to ensure that they kill the self-sufficiency and the bank of Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe compared to Chad, where the French did not do that. So I actually read the U.S. Industry of Trade encouraging American biotech companies to try and penetrate Chad with vaccines and other medications. And the question is, why would they do that? Yet the so-called most successful country in production of cattle utilizing European techniques in Africa is South Africa. They've got 19 million cattle in a population of 60 million people. That means that if Chad, which has 15 million people, has got 30, it is doing way better than South Africa. So it's got nothing to from any of the countries that are practicing white husbandry, but they have to learn from countries like Chad, Uganda, Ethiopia, and even Kenya. Kenya has been using traditional techniques, has been using a migratory pattern of herders, and that should be what we are copying. And even this new legislation on how to breed your cattle should not be encouraged because the diversity and mixing of cattle in these migration patterns are what has made your herd very resilient. It is also what makes to, to develop seeds and to develop plant varieties in Kenya. Only increases production in a hybrid. That hybrid eating a crop that has no nutritional value. And this is why our people are getting sick. And what I'm going to do that right now is I'm going to put up there an article in which I am writing about, in which I'm talking about the correlation between the usage of GMOs and the usage of the chemicals that go with it, glyphosate, and the increase in all known chronic diseases in America. And that can be superimposed, or we can extrapolate that into Africa, and you see that the pattern is more or less the same because we are all human and we are suffering under the same chemical warfare. This is what I call it, and biological warfare. And like I said to you guys, pay attention, please, to this company in Kenya that is from Zimbabwe that sells you chicken in, Baker's in, Creamy in. We call it Simbisa brands. I don't know what name it is going by in Kenya, but I've seen the outlets everywhere I went in Kenya. When I went into the townships in Kenya where the poor are living, I saw so many of those outlets. They sell toxic food. Their chicken is absolutely atrocious. And I'm saying, let us begin to boycott some of these companies. Let Kenyans begin to ask some of these companies to leave Kenya and go back to where they're coming from. Because they cannot be European companies owned by Europeans who come in, poison our people, and kill our people with fast food instead of giving us the right quality of food that we need. And I think as a people, the youth must understand that we've got to become less siloed in our understanding of what is important for us. So in Zimbabwe, we've been taught about the importance of minerals. In South Africa, they're being taught the importance of land. And I'm saying, if the land does not have seeds, if the land is not living, if there are no bacteria, if there's no worms in the land, if you are poisoning that land with chemicals and chemical fertilizers, that land becomes pointless, useless. We need to become holistic in how we realize what matters to us. So we need to eat first. We need to eat healthy food second. That healthy food becomes medicine for our bodies. Then we begin to worry about the economic issues when we have secured our food. Because Hitler always said that Germany was no use as an industrial power if it was not a what? An agricultural power. Many people didn't get what he meant by that. But the reason they lost the Second World War is they were starved of two essential things. They were starved of number one, food. No one would sell them food. No one would buy their electronics and their the best machinery that they had, and no one would give them oil. And what that did is they ended up fighting to try and get land in Poland and land in Russia and oil in Baku oil fields, which is currently Ukraine. And that is how they got defeated once they were started. But those people can afford to treat their people in order to prosper this continent and to defend it. On food and reproduce that food. And if you lose your
It is not rosy. It is not good as you might. Tumnakula, your health and your life. Right now, that shifting I don't know, whatever it is, that rogue thing yenye imetoka WHO will not help us. Edgar, back to you.
Thank you so much, Amerix and Rutendo. So I'm going to bring in Roslyn Wanjiru. Hi, how are you? You have the mic. You can give your submission. Roslyn, are you speaking? Can you hear me? Amerix, am I audible?
Yes, you're okay. You're okay, Edgar.
Okay, Roslyn, I can't hear you, so I'm going to move to Henry Indindi. Mambo vipi bingwa, na una mambo yepi ya kusema kuhusu swala hili zima ambalo tumekuwa tukizungumzia tangia saa 2 za usiku? Bwana Henry, waweza nisikiza, waweza nipata? Wanipata?
All right. If they're not available, just move to the next one. I've been trying to bring Okiya here. I don't know why he's not joining in as a speaker. There are those issues he had raised, and he needs to finish the cabinet, the whatever, and all those things. You can remove these others, Henry and the other one, then bring in others. There's so many requests I can see here, 103. Just bring them so that they can talk.
Okay, let
Okiya,
me
Okiya,
try.
Okiya, I sent you the link, the mic. Just accept, come back so that we finish the discussion together.
Cyprian,
Yes, Edgar.
I really can't see any mics on my side, so if you could also assist me in adding more people on the speaker panel. Juu kwangu naona request 9 peke yake, nikijaribu kuongeza inakataa, sijui mbona.
Okay, okay.
Bravin, you can finish your submission. Bravin, are you there? DK Lemay?
Hey, hi, Eric.
Yeah, go on.
Um, I just want to interject on the issue of the gold mining. Okay, I come from Narok, and really, at a place called Kilimapesa in Transmara, there's a lot of gold mining going on there, and we have not seen any even benefits as the county. we are not even aware who are the real owners of these gold mines. And I'm not sure even if the national government is benefiting out of it, or I think it is just the private guys who are doing this. Also, to go on the Nananani, guys, I think we should mobilize and make sure that we occupy that day and make sure that these guys go home. When we come, and my comment, I think, and I think I will differ with maybe many on this, we should have maybe representatives going forward, because I don't see anywhere, and maybe someone can give me maybe a reference of any country in Africa on liberations or revolutions that have succeeded without representatives or leaders, if I may say. So I think that is my humble submission, and I wish we should not maybe relent and lose hope. However much it might be difficult to move on, but let's make sure that we will not lose the moment, because this is our time, and history will judge us harshly if we just think that we have achieved. There's nothing we have achieved yet. Let's just soldier on. For I see a brighter future ahead. So thank you. Maybe you can pass the mic to other speakers because of time.
Thank you so much, um, Dr. Lemay, DK Lemay, sorry. And thank you, Cyprian, for adding these new fresh speakers. I really can't see them on my side. So 1 minute, Irene. Irene, are you there? Okay, I'll move to Mariama. Okay, ni mimi
Kindly,
amnisikii ama ni mimi
Edgar,
amnisikii
No,
ama
no,
ni
Edgar,
mic
just,
na
just,
you're just
halitaki kuongea?
okay. You're just okay. They're just slow. I don't know what's
Yes,
going on with
yes.
just
their
one
mic.
point. Just
Hello.
one point that I forgot, Edgar. Kindly, I was just to comment about our counties. I think when we gifted ourselves the 2010 constitution, we devolved resources nearer to our communities. But it has come to be that we really devolved much of corruption, and there is a lot of corruption in our counties. And we should not just focus on the national government. Let's also make sure that the county leadership, or those who are accountable in our counties, should be occupied and be accountable with our resources, because we really gifted or entrusted our resources in their hands, and they are just busy enriching their pockets. So let's mind where we come from. Thank you.
All right, history, Kenya. History.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. I just want to make a comment about the depopulation agenda, the neocolonialism we're seeing in agriculture, and so on and so forth. On my part, I am not sure, but I am convinced And there is really no better sign that our president is captive to the whims of globalists. We've seen some of these signs manifesting themselves, and these globalists intend to exercise control on our legislations and therefore government policy. And part of the reason why they're doing that, obviously, is because of profit. And this is raising questions, some of which have been raised in spaces here, whether our president has, at some point got transactional ahead of elections with them. What I mean is, were there promises that he made to them? The president, as we know, campaigned for close to 5 years. Even when he was deputy president, he was in campaign mode. Was there a deal that was struck that they would fund his campaigns in exchange of his support of the agenda? These are questions that we need to ask. Eric, please allow me to depart radically from what this handle has been famous for. We've been synonymous with the history of Kenya, of course, as the handle suggests. We have, from last year, we began reporting a great deal on the ugly head aspects of the ugly head of neocolonialism rearing its head in Kenya. Actually, some of my followers, started sending, replies saying that I'm pushing conspiracy theories, and in fact, some of the posts that we made, we had to bring them down because we did not want to drag our Twitter handle into disrepute. And oftentimes we were citing foreign media stories, some of them from very, respected media houses in the West, mostly American. But we were convinced that globalists had brought their wicked agenda to our shores. And if you allow me just a few minutes, I'll, speak to some of this. And I'm glad that Rutendo mentioned some of them on this space. And Degwa has also made reference to some legislations, and I wish to laud him and others who wish to offer their legal expertise to support this cause of breaking the yoke of this neocolonialism on the agriculture front. It is worth noting, ladies and gentlemen, that many EU countries, I'm talking about EU, Europe, the UK, have slammed their door on some of the maneuvers that we're seeing from globalists, particularly from the US. And if you allow me, I can share specific information that is relevant to the liberal renaissance we are seeing with, Gen Z, and I think now it has caught up with the rest of the Kenyans, and also matters that are close to health, which Eric also you're famous for. Any Kenyan who has lived in the US will tell you that the taste of their bananas, the taste of their oranges, the taste of their fruits, melons, it tastes very different. And this taste is characterized by a sweetness that pales a great deal in comparison with the sweetness that we find in fruits, particularly from sub-Saharan Africa. Why is the taste pale in the US, in the West? Because farm produce in those countries, like in the US, particularly in the southern states of the US, these farm produces have been poisoned by mechanized, heavily fertilized soils. I will not even go to talk about pesticides. Industrial fertilizer, many of you may not be aware that industrial fertilizer actually depletes nutrients from soils. It kills the microorganisms that God ordained in soils. It actually poisons groundwater. It even destroys the worms that the chickens, they feed on. Um, and many farmers, particularly in Kenya, believe that fertilizer is golden, and these are the things that we should use. Yet there are alternatives. If some of you may know that many foreigners in Kenya, particularly from the West, working for UN or the many international agencies based here, when they retire, they want to stay on in Kenya. And if you get into a conversation with some of them, they'll tell you, here, other than the fantastic weather that we have, our food is tasty, our food is nutritious, our food is healthy. I think somebody mentioned that, I think somewhere in Scandinavia, they're eating greens that are produced in this country. But not to digress, there is an aggressive agenda in Kenya, led by government, for reasons best known to them, to promote the use of industrial fertilizer. And that some of this fertilizer is, or a great deal of it, is actually subsidized. And the question arises, why are broke African governments providing farmers with subsidized fertilizer? Because it's part of a depopulation agenda. And some of the investors that we know who have invested in agriculture globally, multinationals, themselves have been outspoken, and they've made it bare that Africa needs to be depopulated. Our forefathers, for centuries, they've been custodians of very noble practices in agriculture. The Ameru and the Kikuyu in Kenya, for example, they abandoned a farm after 4 or 5 seasons so that the soil could degenerate. They knew how to use compost, because compost is, of course, is freely provided by the designs of our Creator. And so some of these practices are being replaced, and they're being sacrificed at the altar of commerce by globalists. And it's a very unfortunate that we seem to be now led by a government that is captive to their agenda. And I'm really asked for this mic just to sensitize Kenyans to open your eyes. There is an agenda that is going to kill us. It's undermining our health. Just to give you an example, um, industrial fertilizer, is not good for food, as much as you may refuse to admit it, because there's a certain order. All the nutrients come from the soil, including fish. Fish feed on algae, or fish feed on algae, on other fish that feed on algae. All the nutrients come from the soil. We eat meat. Americs will tell you meat is rich in iron, it's rich in B vitamins, it's rich in selenium. They come from the soil. There's a certain order that is being upset, that is being interrupted by commerce. And we need to be sensitive to that. And our government, which is leading the government in trust for Kenyans, is actually pushing legislation that is going to kill Kenyans, make us sick. And it started off with fertilizer. It has now spread to seeds. It is now getting to livestock, including beehives. If you own a beehive, you'll now need, if the legislation that is, I think it's Kimani Ichung'wah, the leader of government business, is the one that is pushing this, of course, on behalf of government. If that legislation sees the light of day, you will register your pig, your cow, your camel, even your beehive. What is their interest in honey? And we know bees are getting scarce around the world.
Yes.
And if bees disappear from the face of the planet, so will food.
Yes.
So there is somebody who is looking to exercise control. Some of them are some of the wealthiest individuals. They are the biggest landowners. So we need to act like detectives. Just look at the jigsaw puzzle, and you will see that there's a pattern. So I just thought I will mention that. I don't hog the microphone, and I'm loving these conversations, and this is great civic education for Kenyans. Asante, Eric.
All right.
Yeah, I'll yield.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Edgar, are you there?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
here.
you have to be keen because I've been sending you messages on your DM, and also Cyprian. So who is next? Wakili Steve, 2 minutes each. Wakili Steve, you see the problem is people ask for mic, we humble, they don't talk. Wakili Steve. All right.
Eric. I think you can carry on. We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, my name's Amy. Thank you for giving me the mic. I only have a contribution that I feel like we should really take into consideration. I believe that our education, our health systems, we have a lot about our sovereignty first. If we start fighting this, because I look at elections are coming soon, there's the issue of IDs, there's the issue of registration, there's the issue of IBC reforms. We've not done. There are some constituencies. I think there's one that an MP died. They have never gotten an MP until now. So I think even as we think about other issues, I think the first issue should be about our sovereignty, about our food, about our health systems, about our education. These are the most important things that I think we should really talk about them. I'd also like to say that we should also not forget the people who died, especially during the Maandamanos. We should really ask, like, how are these, like, what are the police reforms that has been done? Another thing, as we're busy here discussing, I also want us to do one thing that let's think about 2027. In as much as we are trying to get we are trying to ask questions, get good governance, there's also the issue of what are we planning about 2027? How are we arranging ourselves? Who is going to do what? How are you going to like vie for this maybe for positions? What are we doing? So that we are not caught off guard when 2027 is just is around. Because we only have maybe 2 years to elections. So I think these are my points. And then another thing, we've always been peaceful, yes, but I would like to say that let's just maintain peaceful protests. If you see someone maybe who is not peaceful, maybe you can tell the rest of the people, and then maybe you can hand them over to the police. And then I think another thing as well, this is not, I don't know how people will take this, but I feel that this is a spiritual war as well. This is not just physical. So I would like to speak to the Gen Zs and the millennials, because I am a millennial. Please, can we pray about this? Can we pray every day as we go? Can we pray about our nation? Can we pray about God's guidance? Can we pray about what to do next? And even as we pray, we can pray as we fight. Pray as we fight. I believe even in meetings like spaces, let's start with prayer and end with prayer, because I believe God is sovereign and the hand of God is upon us. And I know that we'll get victory. So this is what I wanted to say, and thank you for the space.
Hello, next. Baravin, you can mute your mic. I think Edgar dropped. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk. And first, I would love to pay my condolences to the fallen members. And I would like to dwell on just two things, if you may allow me. One, I'm so much concerned with the legislations that we have, plus the current leaders that we have in this country. I've tried to analyze the kind of spirit that they do show whenever they talk. And we realize that as a nation and in Africa, we have a problem of Gucci. We call them Gucci revolutionaries, where we get these few individuals, they get into a club of some rich guys, and now they can do the Gucci issue. They sell us to the highest bidder. So we get a big problem where we cannot nationalize any of our resources. That's when we go to mining, when we come to agriculture, even the seeds. So I feel like even as the lawyers around here are going to write things to lead the legislation. Kindly, let's make it, let's nationalize our resources where we can produce them and do the finished product in the country. I know most of us would feel like that's not possible, but it is possible because from the history, one thing that they never twisted is that they used to tell us the Bantu, who are the majority in Africa, learned the iron smelting skills. So they'll break the iron ore and make ions. The major thing that I would like to talk about
Yeah, finish.
is agriculture.
Finish, please.
Yeah, this is the last thing I'm saying. So in agriculture, one of the students of the co-host, and he was saying you should learn on how to do farming and you should put it in art. So I went and I got to farming of watermelon. I was shocked that I bought a seed. Each seed had a price. I bought 3,000 seeds for 12,000 Kenyan shillings. So yes, it is real. When I was doing the farming, I did it in Muhuru, that's along the where next to Makalda, where they mine gold. And I noted that we used a lot of pesticides for them to come to the table, and some were crazy to a point that the farmers have been given the new seeds that we never used to have because we are looking for hybrid vigor. They use unconventional pesticides. For instance, this pesticide of BBT, they were this one that they spray for the malaria. And we messed with the ecological system because in Migori sector, that's where the omenas come from because of the mosquitoes. They call them
Thank,
SAM. It comes like a cloud. But the
thank,
activities we were doing there was messed up. So apart from just talking about food security, should we really think about the seeds, the practices, the fertilizers. And lastly, this is one thing that made me request for the permission. I was in Jambini early this year. They plant flowers. Flowers are GMO. They
all right.
use a lot of pesticides. And if you go to where the Nairobi water is collected, it tastes pesticides. So that also begs the question, what kind of agriculture do we do? And how does it affect the water? And these flowers, we don't buy them in Kenya. They are
Okay.
bought in Europe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Wakili, you had something disturbing you. Maybe share it.
Thank you very much, Eric. I want to salute all the patriots here for the continued vigilance we have had for the last, especially on how the president and the government has been disregarding the rule of law. And what I feel I wanted to share today and to remind Kenyans in brief was as we have this conversation and we hold our leaders accountable, it's important we focus on especially these seats of members of the county assembly, members of the National Assembly, and the Senate, and how they discharge their mandate. And the reason why I say this is because we find that there have been very poor aspect of how they deal with these corrupt officials that we have, especially governors. You find there's no, since the Senate was established in this new constitution, every person who has been taken there is always acquitted by the Senate. And the question is, are they really doing the right job, or they're just a toothless dog that is never able to bite anyone? So we need to also, as we also look at the National Assembly, the aspect of the national uh, government and cities construction, the Constituent Development Fund, the NGCDF, how the involvement of the member of parliament, because the core business that now our parliamentarians in the country have focused on is the aspect of developments under the NGCDF without any discharge of parliamentary duties that we expect of them. And that's why these persons had the audacity of even telling Kenyans that their allegiance is to the executive, whose agenda they advocate through the NGCDF, and not the parliamentary role of oversight. This has hindered, and this has led to much corruption that we have been witnessing in this country, and lack of accountability, because this particular parliament cannot even hold the national the cabinet secretaries accountable for anything. We saw them reinstate Linturi after the sagas that surrounded the ministry and all the losses the Kenyans are suffering because of the fertilizer that was not proper for the agriculture in this country, which is our backbone. So if we do not focus on these roles, the exact role these persons are supposed to be discharging, and hold our leaders accountable, especially those in the assembly, we may never have a system which is be able to check the executive family even in the coming years. And that is what Kenya has lacked for a very long time, that the executive doesn't have anyone who is checking it in the right manner with a proper look, without this aspect of allegiance. And once we remove NGCDF, and the High Court has pronounced itself on this issue, the Law Society of Kenya had pursued a matter, on this issue. And the High Court pronounced that the national government, that time it was called CDF, was unconstitutional. What did our parliamentarians do? They ran immediately to create a new act, operating in the same structures, but now under a new name, to be able to continue running that particular fund. And this has made it impossible for even the citizens to hold accountable the executive, because when you see a school being built under the NGCDF, the member of parliament won't take credit of it, the national government won't take credit of it, the member of county assembly won't take credit of it. So you never, the public may never hold these persons exactly accountable for what they're supposed to do or what they're not supposed to do, because they don't even understand the role they do or the role they're supposed to be carrying out. I was watching the news today in the evening, and I saw the scenes of Capedo. And you look at how that area has been strategically marginalized by the leaders in those areas, so that to continue enabling the security issues we have, because lack of proper infrastructure, even the bridges and the roads, definitely contribute in the raids that we witness and hear in those areas. And that is orchestrated deliberately to ensure that particular persons gain in those security deployments and security supplies of materials, is to continue fighting and defending in that area.
Thank you.
So it is important we educate our people, and and we encourage everyone to do this as a part of our duty to serve this country, so that it becomes better and we hold our leaders accountable. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you very much. I saw Rufus Kamau here. Rufus, where are you? Rufus had a very great idea. He was saying that we consider all artists should participate in in Nane Nane. He's talking about the role of artists and creatives. I had asked Njugush and to come here. I'd even asked Nameless to come, but I think that will be for subsequent days, so that we can have creatives on board. Shiko Kihika, I saw you here. You did a very wonderful job in Nakuru. I really wanted you to talk about it. Yeah, I've seen Oeba, Willie here. Willie, are you here? Willie Oeba?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Ah, okay, okay. So just hold on. You will give us the final spoken word before we close. Maybe we can take two more. Are you there,
Alex,
Edgar?
I'm
Just
around
hold
now.
on.
Can I
Just
speak?
hold on. Yeah, yeah, you can go on.
Yes. So, if you
Oh, I've
study
seen
or
Okiya. Okiya has joined. Yeah, Okiya has joined. Okiya will come in after Rufus.
can you hear
Go
me?
on.
Yes.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
So, if you study all kinds of revolutions that have happened all over the world, they have always had some form of artists participating and amplifying the voice of the people. So, if you're an artist out there in Kenya, please contribute to this revolution by creating art that basically amplifies the message of what every Kenyan is going through. So this is not only limited to people who create music and poems, but then everyone can also participate. In this digital world, anyone can create art. So whether you do it on the road, whether you do it the flossing Mawana way, just create content, whether it's a billboard, whether it's a painting on the road, whether it's some mural. Mural is basically art that is created on a building. Just post that message, write about it, write to those names, write those things that you feel are personal to you and how the incompetence in this government has affected you. Push it out there. Make sure that the message is very clear. Amplify, and this is how revolutions are built. A revolution is built into the mind first. So all these we are seeing, the civic education and everything, is basically based on the idea that people change revolution will change. So kindly art about this revolution, about the things Kenyans are going through, and this will help get the country back into good governance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, Senator Okiya, maybe you can tell us about the cabinet and the other issue. Karibu sana. We have been waiting for you. I don't know what was happening with your internet.
I think he's no longer on the speaker panel.
All right, he left. Can we have that's that. Willie, yes, how was Nakuru?
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who turned up. Nakuru was divine. Nakuru was. Hello, can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Minerals. These minerals that we are talking about are not were discovered quite some time back. For example, the nobium, I think, was discovered in 1919. That's more than 100 years ago. And many other rare minerals, but the information remained hidden. There has been lack of political action to get these things out, because basically the political action got hijacked by market forces, and the fights between the various people, the various interests, denied us the chance to reap big from where this country would have made some interest. And I think nobium is a very, very, very important mineral that is used in many valuable products. And I think Kenya has got it's supposed to be the seventh largest deposits in the world. And the Murima Hills alone are supposed to be holding something like they say something like 105, about 104 trillion tons. And a kilogram of nobium goes for about $45,000. So you can do the maths. So there's a lot of money there. Also, we saw just this year there was a discoveries of coltan in Kenya, some of which had been taken out, like in Embu. Rwandese have been coming and buying it. People did not know the value. So just the other day that was discovered, they discovered it was coltan, another very important metal. So we have a lot of these metals here. And as I said, we need to do a resource map of the country so that we can be able to know exactly what it is we have and be able to utilize it. But I'd also want to beg these people, to beg ourselves to move away from believing that just the minerals are the silver bullet we need. Kenya has a unique human resource. We have been able to build one of the largest economies in East Africa. We've had the largest without these minerals. We should, as we look at these minerals, we should not look at this. We should not ignore these other areas of building a very versatile human resource that can go out like the Indians have gone out and are conquering many, many countries. Not going out as cheap labor, but going out as people can go and invest in industry and do businesses elsewhere as we develop back home. So for me, I think if we did a resource map, we looked at the past, said all the mistakes were made in the past. Going forward, how do we make sure that what we do things the right way and we avoid these issues? Coming to the question of what I said, that we're going to form a shadow cabinet, or sort of to set up a mechanism of monitoring each ministry that the president has set up, is basically one to be able to audit and ferret ministry budgets, because there's a lot of deception that you find that the national budget that comes to parliament has no relationship with the budgets that the ministries and the government executes. And to do that, you just need to take the appropriation bill or the appropriation act of any year and hold it against the corresponding monthly statements of actual revenues, net revenues, and actual net revenues and actual expenditure that's published every month by the Treasury, and you'll see that the budgets that are being implemented by government are not the ones that are passed by the executive. So one of the reasons we want to set up this thing is informed by the experience I had with the Goldenberg issue, which now has got a three-judge bench and I'm prosecuting it. When Mr. Uko, who was the Auditor General, before the coming into of the handshake government, he was pursuing this matter with the pinpoint accuracy. And even at one time, President Uhuru rained on him, wanted to fire him. They moved a motion in parliament by Dwale. I took action. I went to court. I stopped that motion. I secured Mr. Uko's place to remain as the Auditor General. Then shortly thereafter, there was a handshake occurred, and you could see the change that Mr. Oko dropped what he was doing, and he wrote a very, very flowery picture, basically negating his earlier reports on the Goldenberg. And that's what the handshake achieved. Now that Parliament has totally messed up, it's confused. The first attempt, the first came when President Ruto enticed people to cross from the opposition side to government side to give him a false majority in parliament, which he used to undermine legislation and whatever. Now with the move of ODM, there's nothing like anything to check the excess, because what you have seen that the people go a mechanism where we can be able to set up an orderly way.
All right. Edgar, is Okiya still there?
I think he has connectivity issues. I can't hear him.
Right. You can mute his speaker and just inbox him and tell him we cannot hear him. So, Willie, you can finish.
Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who came through, everyone who shared from within and from far. Nakuru was divine. The movement is very energized, and it was such an inspiring sight to behold. The artistic submissions were very, very powerful to send a strong message that the quest is still alive like never before. You see, the past years, Nakuru had a history of voting along very deep tribal lines and also aligning along ethnic lines. But, ladies and gentlemen, from what I saw today, better days are still ahead. So let us keep going. So allow me to finish my submission with a spoken word poetry. Kabla death haijanok na struggles za life kunieka cotton, itabidi tupambane. This is where the truth is, round this tusidanganyane. Ignorance ni kama kutumia soprano kwa dress mataiko issue based. Chuo siku at my best, mode wangu hakuwa modest. Memory so clear kinita ngombe sahi natumia sanaa kujilisha trees siko zero graced. Drama ya life ni ati saa zingine voice ya actor ifanane na subtitle. Truth ni mtaland in trouble, si depending na did umefanya sana sana kama huna title. Vitu peti ndo zina trend, tumesahau what it feels like kuaddress vitu vital. Immorality na rule kwa nchi viongozi walikuwa sworn in kutumia Bible. Naishi kwa nchi inanisaidia kupostpone my dreams. Now the only country I pledge allegiance to ni procrastination. Drama ya life ni ati saa zingine voice ya actor ifanane na subtitle. Truth ni utaland in trouble, si depending na did umefanya sana sana kama huna title. Truth is, si kila message sincere. Kuna wale wana preach peace kusuppress justice. Truth justice, ile peace tuna enjoy ina depend on justice. My friends at the high places know the law, wengine wana practice. I don't know what you can do, but together we can do better than this. Repetition in a bow. Niliboeka kuandika piece ya peace, nikaandika kuhusu justice, because to spice it all up, nyama walishakula, kenye kimebaki ni the bone of contention. Actions ndo ina separate the word choices from decision. Mali natoka, hata the blind upanga laini kuchangua viongozi ya wana vision. Sijaiona success story ina mission. Generation ya sai iko talented to talk about injustice with precise precision. So tangu class 4 daro za mao ndio mi nilianza kuchora mistari. Pii nilienda na exercise book hoping one day nitashare one stage na Juliani. Ukabila ilikuwa so rampant, mi ile clan nilitambua ni uko flani. Tuliacha kifuli moja mara mob, tukirudi landlord aliamua ku make it safer. Jioni tulipata vifuli mbili kejani. Saizo wanasiasa wako na security hadi security of Kenya. Mtaani chai haikuwa na escort. At times mother alihave kukaanga skari ndo wengine act kama majani. Na tulikaa njaa for days hadi hangejua Michelle ni ntalami. Nasema life is a journey. Huyu dereva na drive recklessly alisha cause accident but bado ajali. Life is acceptance. Nilikutana na ude mrembo lakini alinikataa. Vile ameweza si amekubali. Life is about moving. If you haven't met the devil yet, maybe you're moving in the same direction ama wewe ndio shetani. Ushaifikiria uzito priest tu anayo akiaddress mass, nilichoose word. Ushaijiuliza mbona Bible haina chorus lakini iko na verse? Juu pretense iko so open, crocodile tears inahitaji intervention ya kitunguu. Vitu kick zimepoteza meaning, pombe inatumika kutoa lock, jumulishapoteza kifunguu. We will make it in our motherland, na reminders nafikiria lazima abroad ni kama neno success haina interpretation ya Kiswahili from Kizungu. Nasema pesa ni shetani but ni chache, mali natoka wengi tunaipata kiumungu mungu. Asante.
Mungu nguvu yetu. Amkeni ndugu zetu, tufanye sote bidii, nasi tujitoe kwa nguvu. Nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda. Na tujenge taifa letu. Ndio wajibu wetu. Kenya istahili heshima. Tuungane mikono pamoja kazini, kila siku tuwe na shukrani.